Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2023 and welcome to the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. Over the next hour or so, we're going to find out who the 80 players will be, 40 from the East and 40 for the West, that will represent their sides of the state in the Great Summer Classic, the Kansas Shrine Bowl, once again going into our 50th year. It's a big one for us. On July 15th, 2023 in Hays, Kansas, played there at Fort Hays State University at Lewis Field Stadium. Not the first time we've been back to Hays, and it's always a great host, and we're expecting the same for our golden anniversary. Bringing our co-host here for the fifth time we've done this, now for this 50th selection show, the head man at Sports in Kansas, Chet Kuplen. And Chet, here we are once again about to find out who the players will be in the Kansas Shrine Bowl. Pretty exciting day.
Yeah, excited to be back on with you, BJ. Congrats on the 2022 game in Pittsburgh. It was awesome, great attendance, raised a lot of money. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but man, it's great to be back on. Only 80 players selected today. There are a lot of people that play football in the state of Kansas, BJ. Only 80 selected, 40 East, 40 West. It's by position. It's very difficult to do. There's a lot process and selection things going on with coaches and media and ballots. You're going to explain all that. It's a bit confusing, so I'll let you kind of go and dive into that. But man, just to be nominated of this game, that's awesome. It's awesome to see. And man, what an exciting time. 50th Shrine Bowl. Amazing. And Hays this year, I know Western Kansas and Hays are very excited for it. I know the coaches are excited for it. And the players that we're going to name off here in a bit, they're definitely going to be excited for the 2023 game in Hays in July.
Hey, you talk about that process, and the nomination process is how it gets started. And this year, almost 400 players across the state of Kansas. Remember, it's only seniors who are eligible, but 400 kids nominated for the Shrine Bowl, and we've whittled it down to 40 on the East and 40 on the West. It starts with those nominations. Those go out to the media at large across the state of Kansas. 30 outlets voted on that across the state of Kansas this year. And then our media selection committee that Chet serves on as well goes in, breaks those ties, makes sure we fill out the rosters by position. As Chet talks about, you can't have all these quarterbacks, and even though a lot of high school teams, the quarterback might be the best player, we can't have 12 quarterbacks going into a game, and so they work out that roster to make sure to fill position need for the teams. Coaches get 2 picks as well. We'll bring on 6 assistant coaches and the head coach. They each get 2 picks, 2 from each of their classifications. The head coach will get 2 picks from any classification. No more than 3 schools per side will have more than 2 players on it, and you see how it kind of gets a little convoluted, but it's one of the ways we're able to spread the wealth across geographic regions, make sure we get as many parts of the state representative, and we have the best players possible in the Kansas Shrine Bowl that we'll find out in just a moment. But Chet, we talk about that in this initial picks, and certainly, these are the 40 players from the East and West that are going to be in there, but we rarely go into the game with all those players on there, so there's always going to be opportunity. I'm a guy who is sitting here because of having that opportunity as a replacement player just 2 weeks out before the game, and so be ready to take that chance, right?
Yeah, you never know. Some of the best players in this game are late additions. So, somebody may be injured in another sport, or somebody may commit to a Division I school or leave at semester, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of additions in this game, and you never know to the last minute. PJ Sarwinski, perfect example of that. He's up for the D2 Player of the Year in the country. He was a late add about 2 weeks before the Kansas Shrine Bowl in El Dorado back in the year of 2017. And just finished up a back-to-back All-American season there. So you just never know. Players of all shapes and sizes, 8-man, all the way up to 6A, representing your town, your community, your school one last time. So if you don't hear your name called today, it doesn't mean that you're not necessarily going to be a selection, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or even 3-4 months down the road. You just never know. But this is all for one thing, that's to help the children in the Shriners Hospital for Children, which is such a great cause. Any way that anybody can help out possible. A lot of ways to do so, either donating online or different challenges and things that we got going on out there. I need to do a helmet fundraiser over the summer. A lot of things going on with that we'll get into later on. But it's such a great, so much more than a game and a life-changing experience, as you'll hear today on this show.
And you're going to hear a lot of ways you're going to be able to help throughout the show, including our donate ticker that you can have at the bottom. When you hear one of your players and find out about your selection being picked, give them a shout out, make a donation to Kansas Shrine Bowl at the same time. We're going to kick off our fundraising for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl today so we can continue to make the biggest impact possible. And we are looking for that 50th game being a big one. You talk about your opportunities, Chet. You mentioned opportunities, and these players need to take advantage of it if they get their name called today, but others are waiting in the wings things perhaps as well. And 2022 was a big year. As we turn our attention to 2023, we look back. The Kansas Shrine Bowl, very fortunate to be able to make a donation to Shriners Children of $125,000. We're going to see about that 2022 Shrine Bowl and how much it meant to the players that were there, as well as we get our sights set for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl coming up this summer, July 15th, 2023. Lewis Field Stadium in Hays, Kansas will be the site of this one. Enjoy the video. We've got about a 3-minute video of what they experienced last year and what we want you to know about the importance and how important it is for you to support the Kansas Shrine Bowl here in the state of Kansas. Enjoy. Their whole career has been about themselves. Their whole career has been about getting to college to be the best athlete they can be. This might be the first time they've taken all that they've been given and done it not for themselves.
My name's Sierra Brumbach, and I've been a Shriners patient since I was 11. I got to go through Shriners without having to pay $1 for any of my surgeries, my prosthetics, my FOs, my external fixators. It's just insane. That's all I can say, honestly.
How do you thank somebody for saving your child and your family like that? Sierra would not be where she's at today if it hadn't been for them.
It was really fun to actually be there and interact with other kids that were going through things that I went through as well. There was a lot of surgeries there, but I also had a lot of fun there too. The amputation was my 25th surgery.
That's why we're doing this. You're the reason we're doing this. And the Kansas Shrine Bowl is the primary fundraiser in the state of Kansas for the Shriners Children's Hospital System.
I mean, the game is fun, but that's what it's all about. Giving back to the community and helping those kids.
I coached in 283 NFL games. And the Shrine Bowl, I still look back at it, that was as exciting a game as any that I ever went into as a player or a coach.
It was something that will have a lasting impact on me. It really made you appreciate why we were playing the game. It wasn't just a high school all-star game. You know, it had much bigger meaning, bringing notoriety to a very important cause. It made you feel like you were playing for a lot more than I had probably ever played for in my life.
Every kid who thinks they're going to be any good at football thinks about the Kansas Shrine Bowl.
Before the game, I was going to a junior college. After the game, I had 4 Division I coaches standing at my locker with a full ride scholarship. And the Shrine Bowl tipped myself into that, where I could develop some relationships that later on led to my career.
We want to be an all-star event, and that's why we've added cheer, and we have band, and we have all these other activities, because we wanted to make it as special as possible. I want people to feel they've made an impact by doing something fun. We're a philanthropic organization looking to raise money for kids to help them get to the hospital, get hotels, get surgeries.
It gives you a chance to concentrate on making your kid better, not having to worry about that.
My quality of life has definitely improved, and I've gotten to do so much more than I've ever wanted to do.
We want people to know that the money they donate to the Kansas Shrine Bowl is going to impact kids in their community. We're always going to provide those services. You can help by supporting the Kansas Shrine Bowl as the official fundraiser for Shriners Children's in the state of Kansas.
Our first picnic, our first dance, our big trip, our first home, and all the belly laughs in between. These are the moments I'll always remember. I don't drink and drive. I have more memories to make.
Remember what matters most. Don't drink and drive. Do it for them. A message from the Kansas Department of Transportation and your law enforcement community.
Watch me. Watch me shine with every snap. Born to move fans, to cheer and clap. 2 different legs, that's how I play. One built from science to help me on the day. Between these lines, I'm all heart and muscle. Don't stare too long. You'll miss the hustle. Watch me. Pioneers in prosthetic technology at Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back to the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. BJ Harris and Chet Kuplen back as we get ready to break down the 40 players that will comprise the 2023 East squad. We'll hear about the West squad coming up in just a little bit. Also going to talk to both head coaches throughout the next hour or so. But as we go, let's get into it. Chet, let's dive right into this 2023 50th East squad. And we go to Nemaha Central, state power and a state champion. And they're 6'3", 225 linebacker Cooper Hike.
Yeah, one of the best players in the state of Kansas, a top 11 selection from Sports in Kansas this year, the 2A Offensive Player of the Year, and doubles as one of the best linebackers in the state as well. Over 80 tackles this year for the state champ. He rushed for over 2,000 yards offensively. More known for a linebacker in his first, of course, sophomore and junior year. Won a state title as a freshman, wins another one as a senior. But this guy was an absolute star on both sides of the football for the Thunder there and Coach Glatzik. A great pickup out of Seneca, Kansas.
Head to the 6A ranks and stay in the defensive side of the ball. 5'8", 155 from Olathe North, Joshua Parrish.
Yeah, doubles up as a D-back wide receiver. Of course, you saw his brother this year play a lot of minutes for Kansas State as a true freshman. And this guy is a track and field all-stater, a lot of speed, and an electric player out of the Sunflower League, which is just off the charts this year with a lot of talent in that league, a lot of very good teams, a lot of competitive football. But this guy will be absolutely one of the fastest players on the field and really a lockdown defensive back. But like I said, you could play him at wide receiver if needed in this game as well. Great pickup out of Olathe North.
We'll stay in Olathe and we'll head west just a little bit. Coach O'Neill's squad and the Owls, their representative, 6'2", 280 offensive lineman Dylan Burge.
Yeah, top 22 all classes picked this year, and a guy that really could have been a top 11 pick this year. The Owls are doing great things there. Of course, Coach O'Neill has coached in this game in the past, and this is a guy, a road grader offensively. One of the best tapes that I saw all year. You know, I'm not somebody just talking about players. I watch a lot of tape on a lot of these kids as well. If a few inches taller, he probably has a lot more looks, but this guy, an animal on that offensive line, a great player out of Olathe West.
From 6A down to 1A, and maybe one of the best examples, Chet, you're always talking about guys at all levels, and here's one from St. Mary's, a state champion as well, and Keller Hurla.
And a great kid as well, a top 11 selection this year from Sports in Kansas, the 1A Player of the Year. And he was a top 15 basketball player last year. He had a 51-point game in basketball. He's a four-sport all-state athlete, and all he did was lead his team to a 99-yard drive in scores with under 20 seconds remaining to win the state title against Inman, their first ever in school history for football. Keller Hurla, man, what a representative out of St. Mary's. Very, very good pickup here. He's a quarterback. He can play defensive back. As I said, four-sport all-stater, does a little bit of everything.
We'll stay small class. In fact, our smallest is an 8-man representative for the East squad, as it often does, comes from Axtell, and it'll be Isaac Detweiler.
A kid that started as a wide receiver as a freshman in the state championship game, moves to quarterback and never really looks back, wins 26 consecutive games over his junior and senior year, one of the best at any level in Kansas, the back-to-back 8-man Division II Sports in Kansas Player of the Year, a top 11 selection in any class of Kansas. And you're looking at a young man right here that has scored more H-downs than anybody in the history of the game. There's about 40 students in that school, and I think every boy in that school about plays football. They have been incredible. Coach Detweiler, of course, the coach there as well, so plays for his father. Great representative out of Axtell, Isaac Detweiler. Also doubles as a linebacker / defensive back, but he's a guy, you see an 8-man, of course, the Busing kid a few years ago, he beat everybody out and started at quarterback in this game. And he was the reason that Isaac was the quarterback or the receiver, because he was the quarterback the year, in 2020 that we had it in Topeka. A guy from Axtell started that year. Maybe it'll happen again 3 years later. We'll see.
Yeah, our historians think that was the first time an 8-man kid had started in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, and did a nice job for the East squad. We'll continue on as we stay up in kind of that northeast Kansas area, Atchison County, and go to Bryson Lee.
Yeah, he's an all-state baseball player. He's a state wrestling qualifier as well as a field qualifier. Plays quarterback, can play outside linebacker. Really an athlete spot for this guy. Not a lot of talk on his team and maybe teammates overall, but this is absolutely one of the best players in Class 2A this season. Great representative for his high school.
I probably don't watch quite as much film as you do, Chet, but I did make sure I went and watched this next guy's film just a little bit, and I think it's the second play from scrimmage on his huddle highlight that's almost terrifying. 6'4", 315, and a name that we know well in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, and a name that a lot of people know across the state of Kansas at a Piper High School in Camden, Beebe.
Yeah, headed to Kansas State at the next level. Of course, we all know his brother, an All-American that's there right now, and another brother that played at Minnesota as well. Just an athletic football family. Wrote our front as well. We talked about a man from the West. Doing that same thing here out of Kansas City, Piper version of it. I remember watching his brother play in this game a few years ago. Kind of the same thing I thought with Hadley Panzer as well. As like, these guys look like they're already in college. And you're going to see that with Camden Beebe in this game. Absolute stud out of Kansas City, Piper. 6'3.5", 6'4", 315 pounds. Doubles up, he can be a defensive lineman as well. So a great pickup out of a guy that's going to Kansas State here out of Kansas City, Piper.
Flip back over to the defensive side of the ball, go to the 4A classifications. 5'9", 175 out of Bishop Miege. They'll have another player in this one, DeAndre Baisley.
Yeah, you can just kind of select a member of their offense or defense, BJ, and you'd probably be okay with it at Bishop Miege. They have a lot of really good players over there. A finalist for the 4A Defensive Player of the Year this year, a speedster, a ball hawk. Very good player out of Bishop Miege, the 4A state champion, and obviously he goes against some of the best competition in the Eastern Kansas League.
Back down to Southeast Kansas, and maybe the first time we'll go to Southeast Kansas and your alma mater. I'm sure there'll be a Chet Kuplen statue someday on the steps of Frontenac High School, but this is a good one for them. 6'3", 195. He stands out on the field as well for the Frontenac Raiders. It'll be Mario Mangini.
Yeah, and he's a three-sport all-state athlete, a great young man. 6'2 3/4", 6'3". I could really see him being a defensive back at the next level. I could see him playing college baseball at the next level. And guess what? A couple weeks ago, he scored 38 points in a game, believed to be the most ever in a high school basketball game at Frontenac High School. His brother played in this game a few years ago. And of course, you look at him, running back, wide receiver on offense, probably going to play defensive back in this, a speedster. You can really put him anywhere. He was absolutely one of the best players in 3A over the last 3 seasons.
We're staying SEK, and another player who has had a ton of recognition over the last year, and rightfully so. 6'4", 215, defensive lineman out of Chanute in Degan.
Yeah, a young man that was our 4A Defensive Player of the Year from Sports in Kansas. He also took that honor from another publication as well. This is the anchor leg of a F1 state championship team twice in a row. He's also an all-state caliber wrestler, an all-state caliber javelin thrower as well. College track programs want him to be a decathlete. He has multiple FCS offers. I think he should have bigger. He's a product of COVID, extra eligibility. That jumps off the page. He came to our photo shoot this year. He looks college ready right now, fast, big, probably runs about 11'1", 11'2", 215 to 220 pounds. Degan, absolute monster on the defensive side. And guess what? He doubles as a wide receiver / tight end offensively as well.
Back to the Metro and 4A, 6'4", 315. Another one's offensive lineman playing for last year's East head coach and Rod Stahlbaumer there at Base or Linwood. It'll be Levi Cooley.
Yeah, really good player out of the United Kansas Conference, multiple-year All-State selection, I believe maybe last year in 5A, this year in 4A. And, of course, this is the players you mentioned, Rod Stahlbaumer. He's had some good players up there and been one of his best players that he's had up there. Been a mainstay, really, on that offensive front over the last 3 seasons. Great size, about 6'4", 6'4.5", 315 pounds.
Up to 6A we go, and a linebacker and a good-sized one here for the East squad from Washburn Rural, Ty Weber.
He was the Sports in Kansas 6A Defensive Player of the Year, over 400 tackles in his career. This guy is an absolute tackle machine playing back to his freshman year. And I really like the Centennial League this year a lot. And, of course, we'll see East and West both in that because Manhattan, of course, the state champion in that league this year. And I thought that league really elevated itself. And Ty Weber was the Defensive Player of the Year in that league, top 11 all classes this year. As I mentioned, the Defensive Player of the Year in Class 6A. Just an animal to the football. Every bit of 6'2.5", 6'3", 230-plus pounds. A great representative for Waru.
We go to St. James Academy. They've had a couple of really good years in a row in 4A, and their representative this year will be Wade Spencer.
Yeah, in 2021, he was our 4A Defensive Player of the Year. Didn't have the team success they had last year, but, look how loaded it was this year with Aquinas and Miege. But this guy, a lot of people keyed on him, double-teamed him this year because he kind of came out of nowhere as a junior last year, but still produced. First-team All-EKL, Defensive Player of the Year finalist in Class 4A. And here's a guy, great speed off the edge, definitely deserving of a spot here. Back-to-back All-State selection in Class 4A. Wade Spencer out of SJA.
Stay in 4A and in that neck of the woods as well. St. Thomas Aquinas, 5'9", 165, defensive back, Jacob Bittner.
Yeah, and a guy, you go through these, you got to have a guy that plays center. You got to have a guy that plays quarterback, and some of these nominations that come in is, defensive back. Well, does he play safety? Does he play corner? What spots can he play? This guy, a true cornerback out of St. Thomas Aquinas, sees some of the best receivers week in and week out of the Eastern Kansas League. St. Thomas Aquinas has had a lot of good representation in this game over the years. Randy Dreiling really has had that program going over the last 8 or 9 years, and this has been one of the better defensive backs that he's had there. And, of course, an all-EKL selection, all 4A selection. Nice to see him get on the list.
Stay and go to the 6A ranks, and Lawrence Free State, they'll have a big one in this one, 6'6", 245, offensive lineman Spencer Doan.
Yeah, an offensive lineman, this year, going across, and a lot of the really, really good offensive linemen and certain things in all-state lists might have been a junior, might have been a sophomore, and you see size like this jump off the page. Of course, the guy out of the Sunflower League, pretty good on and off up there out of Lawrence Free State, and they certainly have a player that, at their school right now being recruited at the Division I level. And this was another guy kind of in his shadow on the team. So nice to see Spencer get in this game. As I said, 245 pounds, 6'6", very long player, and nice to see him get on the list.
We'll stay in 6A, and Olathe Northwest, they'll have Eric Butler.
His size, jumps, look at it, 6'2", 230 at the running back position. Not something that you see every day of the week, and we saw that with Cooper Hike earlier, linebacker who could play running back in this game as well. As I said, Sunflower League. This was a team that went all the way, kind of came out of nowhere under Coach Clark this year and made it all the way to a sub-state championship this year and battled with Gardner Edgerton. So Olathe Northwest, I don't think anybody maybe had those expectations outside of their program this year, and this was a big reason why.
You want to know how good this next player is? He's for the East squad, but the West coach, after finishing up selection, said, how did we not end up with this kid on our team? Well, that dividing line runs right on the east side of Manhattan, puts Wamego on the east side of the state for the Kansas Shrine Bowl, despite the fact they play on the west half of the bracket in the Kansas State High School Activities Association. His coach also be in this one, Coach Moody out of Wamego, and we're talking about Hayden Noviot.
This guy may be the best multiple sport athlete in Kansas, all-state baseball player, multiple years state wrestling champion, and hurt over half the season this year and still produces and puts up ridiculous numbers. If you watch any game of any of the playoffs or state championship, he's the absolute best player on the field at all times. And I think more people statewide would know about him, probably more so if he would have played this entire year, but very deserving selection, still an all-state pick, and likely would have competed for top 11 player of the year or a top 3, top 5 type player in all classes had he played the whole year. Going to Army at the next level, had multiple offers, a very nice young man, and of course a great representative of Wamego, and it battled to win the whole thing. They were very, very deserving to be where they were at. Much closer game than that score looked like in the state championship, and that's kind of crazy. This is a program that was a 3A program not too long ago, and I don't think people quite realize how good that you have to be to go head-to-head with Bishop Miege in a state championship game. And this is a guy that played a little bit more running back his senior year because they developed a quarterback in his spot and the Donahue kid. But this kid you can put anywhere on the field. I kind of like him at quarterback, though. You can put him at running back. You can put him at safety, outside linebacker, receiver, wherever you want. Just get the ball to Hayden Oviatt.
All right, we'll go to the 6A ranks, and Coach's kid, Coach Ryder's one of his players, Blue Valley Northwest, and Aiden Beheimer.
Yeah, I think a versatile when I think of this guy. He's played offensive line. He's being recruited to play tight end or D-line at the next level. 6'5", 225 pounds, plays in one of the best leagues in the state, Eastern Kansas League. Last year, of course, on that state championship team, loaded team. And, of course, maybe didn't have the overall team success this year, but Blue Valley Northwest was still a very good team, very good program, and, a lot of, comparable teams across 6A, a lot of parity this year, but really one of the best players in that classification as an all-state pick in Class 6A this season.
Right just south of there, stay in the Blue Valley School District in Blue Valley West, 6'1", 180, and that is Jack Schneider.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of really good players here recently, and of course, several good players on this team this year. A nice pickup, one of the best defensive backs out of the Eastern Kansas League, and a first-team 6A All-State selection on the defensive side of the football.
And in 5A, 6'1", 240, playing the defensive line as they've got him slated in this one from Lansing is Jamal Williams.
Yeah, this guy looks like he lives in a weight room, and of course the United Kansas League, Defensive Player of the Year in that conference, and of course some solid players in that conference as well. And maybe a hidden player because of size and recruiting and things like that, but definitely one of the best players in Class 5A, a finalist for the 5A Player of the Year on the defensive side of the football this year, all Lansing.
Well, that's it. We're halfway through our East squad. We've got 20 of our 40 players selected. We're going to make the announcement for the next 20 in just a moment. We'll take a quick break. Before we do, don't forget, you can make a donation. If you're one of the fans of those 20 players you just heard, tell them congratulations and make a donation at kansasshrinebowl.com/donate. You can donate via Venmo or PayPal using those QR codes that are on your screen right now. Trying to really kick off our fundraising here on the first day of 2023 as we head for that 50th game on July 15th in Hayes. We'll learn who the next 20 players are and wrap up our East squad when we return right after this on the selection show for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl.
Watch me. Here I stand on my own 2 feet. Jump shot intact, here to compete. Skilled hands were there to mend the bone. From loving halls that brought me home. My world stopped with a drive through the lane. Now give me the ball. You'll remember my name. Watch me. Orthopedic excellence at Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back to the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. BJ Harris and Chet Kuplen with you as we're breaking down the 2023 East squad. We've introduced you to 20 of our 40 players. Let's jump in to the next 20, and we'll start at Highland Park. Boy, what a year they've had this year. 5'11", 170 in Trey Richardson.
This guy is electric, maybe one of the most electric players in the state of Kansas. Sub 4.4 speed, also a standout basketball player, and this is a guy that had like 1,000 return yards this year alone. Incredible, nearly 10 yards of all-purpose yards this year in the Highland Park turnaround, and just an electric player. Going to be, definitely one of the fastest players that we've probably ever seen in this game, and a great young man, and the return specialist on all of the all-state teams, wide receiver, running back, wherever you want to put him at, this guy can play.
You want to talk about a guy who can play probably at several different positions and definitely stands out. I dare you to walk into Galena High School and see if you can't find out where Tyler Little is. 6'5", 240, and a good one down there for Coach Sarwinski.
He definitely is not little, and of course his brother played in this game a few years ago, but he's about 2-3 inches taller than him, and this is a young man that's been a 4-year starter on Galena in multiple sports. Looking to be a 4-time All-State basketball player. He was a 3-time All-State football player. Started on the offensive line on his career, even though he's not really an offensive lineman. Could be at the Division I level, at the next level. He's played tight end, fullback, D-end, linebacker, outside linebacker, wide receiver. Maybe one of the most versatile recruits that I've ever covered. I really feel like a lot of FBS programs are sleeping on this young man. You can plug him in anywhere, but tight end maybe his best fit in this game, unless you want to put his hand in the ground on the defensive side of the ball. But Tyler Little, absolutely one of the best athletes in Class 3 over the last 4 seasons.
Let's head back to the Metro. We'll head up to Blue Valley Southwest. Their player this year is going to be Thomas Ippolito.
Yeah, and this guy has a lot of experience in pass protection with quarterback Dylan Dunn. They like to sling it around a lot. Of course, Coach Ryder, he's known to sling it around a lot, so probably a perfect fit here in that same league out of the Eastern Kansas League. Now, a second-team All-League selection, and people may say, second-team All-League? Well, it's harder to make second team all-league in some of these leagues, our Eastern Kansas or Sunflower, maybe than some all-state teams by classification when you start to look at who's in the league and how good the league is spread across 4A, 5A, and 6A. This guy is a guy that definitely belongs in this football game.
We'll stay in the Metro and stay in some of these big classes, 6A, and a big one here at 6'4", 240 from Olathe South is Jordan Allen.
Over 600 yards as a tight end, and of course a guy that had over 50 tackles defensively as a defensive end. One of the best two-way players, maybe the best two-way player in Class 6A this year. A top 22 all-classes selection with multiple offers at the FBS major level. So this is a guy that is definitely going to stick out in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, part of that Olathe South program that had a pretty good year.
We'll stay in 6A and go to Shawnee Mission Northwest. Running back side and 5'10", 170 is Malik Oatis.
It seemed like every time that I was looking at stats and things coming in, this guy would go for 200 to 350 yards. Just an all-purpose type guy that can be a receiver, mainly a running back, an all-purpose back. We talked about Richardson. This is another player that's exactly him. An electric player out of the Sunflower League, Malik Oatis out of Shawnee Mission Northwest.
Go to 5A and the defending 5A state champions, a juggernaut in Mill Valley. Coach Appleby's got him going. 6'2", 190, Mikey Bergeron.
Yeah, and very difficult for Mill Valley because you can ask any coach on that staff who's your best defensive player, and they may say a different guy every day of the week, and their assistants may say one guy because there's so many guys that are so good on this team. It was nearly impossible to pick because of all votes and things coming in, and this guy, a 5A Defensive Player of the Year from Sports in Kansas, but it could have been two other players on his own team. This program and what Coach Appleby has done, a total team effort. 160 kids out per year. They have won, I forget what, 6 state titles since 2015, whatever it's been. It has been incredible to follow this program and what they've been able to do. A 4-peat. This is a guy that's won 4 state titles. A very good defensive back out of Mill Valley. Congrats to him for getting on this because, as I said, really you can point to a member of the Mill Valley defensive offense, and those guys would be deserving to be in a pick on this game.
Another pretty consistent program on the east side of the state in the smaller classes in 2A has been Osage City over the last few years. They've had several guys playing this game, and they'll have another one. It'll be at 6'2", 220, Landon Boss.
And he is a big reason why this guy is, seemed to be in high school for him dunking and basketball. You see him going 190 plus in javelin, winning a state title. He power cleans nearly 340, 350 pounds. Linebacker in this game probably, but a very, very good quarterback for this team. Maybe one of the state's top multiple sport athletes. Not maybe. He's definitely in that conversation. Very explosive player here out of Class 2A Osage City. Recently picked up a PWO from the University of Kansas, so he's got Division I lookers out there. And I think a guy that can play on either side of the football, probably more so a linebacker in this game and a linebacker at the next level, but definitely one of the best players in the state. The 2A Defensive Player of the Year from Sports in Kansas, Landon Boss.
Go to Eudora and the Cardinals. Good year for them under a first-year head coach for them in the 4A ranks, and they had multiple guys that probably could have got on here. Their representative will be Cale Hammerschmidt.
Yeah, and they have some Division I guys on their squad this year, and of course some guys that are juniors that are pretty good that were first-team All-League picks. Kel Hammerschmidt had a first-team All-League pick as well as defensive back, and this was a team that battled with Bishop Miege this year, lost a close one to Lewisburg, and Eudora was every bit as good as most teams in Class 4A this year. A very, very good program, and under the radar program that not a lot of people were talking about. Kel Hammerschmidt, a big reason for that defense and the leadership that he brought to that team. Nice to see him get a spot on this squad.
When Frontenac's putting your statue on the steps at Frontenac High School, we can do a 2-for-1. They can put my statue at Girard High School, Chet, and they'll have another representative and a good one. Well, good reason why they've won 20 games the last 2 years, and that's Luke Nigaman at quarterback.
Yeah, a great young man as well, a great representative of his school and his community, and man, this guy looks the part. You look at a college-level quarterback or college-level athlete, and you look at him, you're thinking, man, how's this guy still in high school? 6'3 3/4, 6'4", 205, 210. A very good quarterback in a run-heavy offense. If this guy was playing 5A, 6A, throwing 40, 50 times a game, and you'd really see him highlight that arm, but he was a good runner as well, and really a big reason for the resurgence of the Girard program that won 18 regular season games over the last 2 years. So nice to see Luke get in as a quarterback. He could play multiple spots, though. You could put him out at tight end if you want, and he's one of the state's top punters as well. But I like him as a quarterback in this game. A very, very strong arm, very accurate. When I go to these camps and combines in the summer, he was always one of those guys in the top 5 going against guys from 1A all the way to 6A. So definitely jumps off the page here as one of the best quarterbacks in the state and very underrated at the position.
Head back north towards the Topeka area. We'll go to Rossville for this one, 6'2", 290, and Jacob Carver.
Coach Thomas loved this guy on his state championship team last year and loved him as a senior this year as well. After they graduated a lot of key players, a two-time 2A All-State pick on either side of the football, a lot of size, of course, at 290 pounds, as I said. Offensive line listed here, but a very, very good defensive tackle as well.
Head north to Sabetha. They've got a long list of players who have played in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, and they'll add another one to the mark, 5'10", 190, in Josh Herman.
Just a football and sports community in general. They really support everything going on there. Great people. Josh Herman, 5'10", 190 pounds, of course, out of a very good league, the Big Seven, that produces state champions, it seems like, every single year. Sabetha, of course, it's been a little bit, but not too long ago, they were winning state titles and a very good program this year, and Nemaha Central winning the 2A state championship out of there, and, of course, Holton getting state runner-up in Class 3A to Andale. So very, very good football, and this was absolutely, over the last 2 years, one of the best football players out of that Big Seven league.
We'll head back to the 4A ranks in Lewisburg, a resurgent Lewisburg team with another first-year head coach having some success, and this guy's a big reason why. And he, again, stands out on the field, and that's Jace Hovey.
His defensive films I've seen all year long. He has a lot of PWO offers from Power 5s. I think those should be offers, and I'm kind of confused whether or not, because it's a great tape. And he has incredible size and athletic ability as well. Lewisburg had 4 or 5 players that are legit college prospects on their team this year. A lot of good things going on in football in Lewisburg. Another one of those supportive communities that they love their football there. You could have went a lot of ways with the pick out of Lewisburg, but in that need position, defensive back, and really jumped off the page if you turn on his highlights. Very good player in Jace Hovey out of Lewisburg High School.
We'll stay in 4A, and Bishop Miege, their second pick on this team, and it will be 6'1", 187, Isaiah Coppage.
This guy was electric on offense this year for Mac Armstrong, of course, who threw for 3,800 yards, and nearly half of them, I think, went to this young man. Not quite half, but a lot of them did for the 4A state champion. They sling the ball around a lot, and I know Coach Ryder's really going to like this guy on his offense, as he's had a chance to play against him a few times over the last couple of years. But all-state pick out of 4A, Isaiah Coppage.
Nemaha Central will also have another player on this team, 6'6", 290, another one of those big guys up front, and it's Connor Dieters.
I was at their practice in October this year. Bethany Bowman and I were there and talking to some of these kids. They did not look like a 2A offensive line. And we talked about one of their running backs that was 6'3", 230. And, you know, they got a guy that if he has the season he did last year, he'll get in the game next year. And Holden Bass is 6'5", 275 pounds. He's a junior. And this kid right here is not going to play football, to my knowledge, at the next level, at least the last time I talked to him in October. This is a Division I offensive lineman when you look at him, a very explosive thrower in track and field. He was a road grader up front, and they have size off the charts for Class 2A. Remember, this is a team that beat Holton, a team that took state runner-up in 3A. Nemaha's in 2A in the same league, beat them earlier on in the season. And it's awesome to see a 2A program doubled up. You don't always see that. These two guys from Nemaha Central can play at any high school in Kansas and stand out and be all-state level players. You're very, very good lineman here at Connor Dieters.
We'll head east to Atchison, and the Phoenix, 5'11", 220, is going to be Jesse Greenlee.
And I believe 3,500 yards combined the last 2 years. Coach Smith has done a nice job with this program, and one of the best running backs, of course, up in that league, up in that area, and really just a standout. We got to meet him at some camps, and Colin stood out there as well. Great size, 5'11", 220 pounds, and really a guy that you can count on getting 4 or 5 yards a carry, if not more. Has a little bit of a speed to go with him as well with that 200-pound weight. So good pickup, back-to-back 4A All-State selection out of Atchison High School.
Coach Arnold from Hayden Catholic's going to be on our staff for another year. He's served on our coaching staffs a couple of times, and he's going to bring a little bit of beef with him as well on these next 2 picks. We'll start with 6'2", 275. They've got him listed on the defensive line. It'll be Ben Evans.
Yeah, as well. Coach Arnold had me come up and speak to the school last year, so got to meet this young man. And, you know, he looked like he was 25 years old last year when he was a junior and still in high school. And Of course, him and a teammate, the Otting kid, just absolutely dominated competition up front, and guys that can play at any level in the state of Kansas. And this is a guy that was probably in the shadow of Otting, because Otting going to Notre Dame and a little bit taller than Ben Evans, but Ben Evans has absolutely been one of the best players in 3A football on the line over the last 3 years. Like I said, it seems like he's been in high school forever. So nice to see him get some recognition here, an all-state pick in Class 3 on the defensive side of the football.
And we'll stick with it. Chet, you mentioned him a couple of times there, and man, some good size and a big-time player, 6'5", 281, and Joe Otting from Hayden Catholic.
And a guy that can handle the basketball, and an all-state basketball player as well. And one of the nicest young men that I've ever met. He was at our top 11 shoot earlier this year. Got to meet him a couple of times. Notre Dame is getting a great football player, a great person, the offensive lineman of the year in the state of Kansas. You talk about Division I eye test, and I said that to him last time I saw him. That when people talk about who passes the eye test for Division I football, I'd have this guy the first guy off the bus every time that I play. That's probably worth a few points right there. But a great player, can play on either side, but an offensive lineman, going to be his potential. And not to put too many expectations on a guy like this, but you know, a few years ago when you see guys like Braden Smith or guys like that come out of high school and you're like, whoa, that type of, to me, coming out of high school, not to put unrealistic expectations, but he is a high level player, and I expect him to be a high level player at Notre Dame as well.
We'll stick with one of their rivals. One of the biggest rivals just north of Hayden is Holton, and their representative, 6'1", 190, in Matt Lears.
I say this every year about one player. He does everything but drive the bus to the away games, because this guy is the punter, the kicker, the quarterback, defensive back. He can do a little bit of everything. Maybe not really a true quarterback, but he's a true athlete, a great player. And you could have went a lot of ways with this pick. Holton had 3-4 players that are Kansas Shrine Bowl picks, but in an at-need position in certain things, and the way that, you know, ballots and coaches and things come in. Matt Lear's the pick up here, but you can't go wrong. As I said, they have about 4 all-state players on that state runner-up team. A very good representative for Holton High School, who's had some really good players in this game.
Yeah, I know you watch a lot of film, and you always say guys step up on film and you can see them. Well, last year for the 49th Kansas Shrine Bowl, we set up tables and chairs for 1,200 people, and the Pittsburgh Purple Dragon football team was there to do it. And this guy stood out to me as just a good kid, a kid who was there to work and ready to be in charge and lead that team. It was pretty clear just during setting up tables and chairs that J.J. White was leader of the Pittsburgh Purple Dragons, and he gets to take that leadership to the Kansas Shrine Bowl, 6'1", 185 for Coach Latimer.
Yeah, and nice first year for Coach Lat there, and the leader of that defense, had some pretty good players. Not a lot of seniors on this team, but J.J. White was a Sports in Kansas first team All-State selection this year on the defensive side of the football, kind of coming out of nowhere, leading that defense. And everybody talked about, you know, Pittsburgh High is going to be down, all this, but Pittsburgh High exceeded expectations and proved a lot of people wrong this year, including myself. So nice to see Pittsburgh High make a little bit of a playoff run, get some wins, and J.J. White, definitely the leader of that defense, is a 5A All-State pick. Nice to see him in this game.
If you're keeping track at home, we are at number 39 of 40 players for the East squad. We'll wrap things up as we head up to the northeastern, about as far northeast as you can get in the state of Kansas. 6'4", 190, 1A representative out of Troy in Jarrett Norris.
And, you know, we talked about Keller Hurla likely being the state's top multiple sport athlete in 1A. I know they probably play 2A in basketball, but this Jarrett Norris, same type of way. You know, one of the best athletes at that 1A, 2A level in the state of Kansas. Plays wide receiver / tight end, middle linebacker, defensively. Could be an all-state pick on either side of the football, and a multiple-time all-state basketball player as well. Slowed down a little bit by a little bit of an injury right now, so we'll see what happens, but definitely a deserving selection here, as this guy just lit up the receiving column for Coach Jasper, who has been a coach in this game a few years ago, and really likes to sling it around. So you like a big target offensively. As I mentioned, Coach Ryder in this game likes to throw it. This will be a great representative. It's not going to matter that he played 1A football here. This guy would be a good player at every classification in the state.
All right, there you have it. Those are the 40 players on our initial picks here for the 2023 50th Annual Kansas Shrine Bowl. And again, gentlemen, you have just been selected onto a very short list of high school football players who have played in the Kansas Shrine Bowl. An excellent opportunity, and we hope you take advantage of it. More information will be coming your way pretty soon about the responsibilities and the opportunity you have before you, and some of the expectations we have for you as well. We'll talk more about that perhaps as we wrap up the show. Don't forget, if you are one of the fans of those players and now the 40 East players that we've announced here on the selection show, you can tell them them and give them a little shout out at kansasshrinebowl.com/donate. Go to a Venmo or PayPal. You can scan those QR codes on your screen right now. Make a donation, make a comment, and tell them how proud you are of them, and to help us kick up our fundraising for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl. We head west now, young man, as we head out to the west, and Coach Crow and his squad and his staff to lead them. We'll hear from Coach Crow in just a little bit as we learn about our west players, but we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will introduce you to the 40 players who will make up the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl West squad.
We've all heard what they say about us. Flyover state, middle of nowhere, a bunch of country folk. Go ahead and fly on over. There's nothing going on. Nowhere to be. And yeah, we've got a lot of hard-working, entrepreneurial, best neighbor you could ask for farm families. We're proud of Kansas, and that's why we built our entire network for it. Next Tech Wireless, keeping Kansans connected.
Every athlete dreams of winning, of all their hard work and determination coming to fruition, of being crowned a champion. At Cotton O'Neill Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, we live for those empowering moments. When injuries happen, we work with you to get you back in the game, quickly and safely. Don't just dream of winning. Make it happen with Cotton O'Neill Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Watch me. Watch me pirouette with style and grace. An open floor of inspiration. This is my place. 5 positions to start, leotard and tights. A story through movement, under music and lights. Straight and tall, they promised I'd stand. I'm a ballerina who twirls like the blades of a fan. Watch me. Innovative scoliosis treatment at Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back to the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. BJ Harris, Chet Kuplen here, as we have just introduced you to the 40 players for the 2023 or the 50th East squad. And as we've got our players in place, we've got to have the guys that are going to lead those teams. And we'll see and meet now our East assistant coaches for the 2023 game, and obviously led by head coach Clint Ryder. We'll hear from Coach Ryder in just a moment. 6A Representative Lauren Clark. In 5A, it'll be Josh Latimer. Weston Moody from Wamego in 4A, Bill Arnold from 3A, Michael Glatsack from Nemaha Central in 2A, and Kyle Schenk from St. Mary's in 1A. And boy, a lot of experience, some state champions in there, some legends of the Kansas Shrine Bowl as well, and a pretty good squad as we'll bring in the head coach of the Kansas Shrine Bowl for the East squad, Clint Ryder. And Coach, that roster just announced. We'll talk about your staff in a moment, but you got to be thrilled with the 40 guys you've got, and we'll get started with this game now. That we know who our players are.
Yeah, and it was a great selection process, and I think that obviously the guys that we have are unbelievable players, not only for their teams, but areas of the state that are represented all throughout. It was a really difficult process to go through. And when you're looking at so many really good players across the state to choose from, and I know what it means to those guys to be able to play in this game, a game that means so much to other people, but really excited about the East squad and the opportunity we're going to have to go out and compete, come July.
Well, Coach, you were, of course, a player at Southeast back in the day in Southeast Kansas, then coached out at Heston on a state runner-up team. You were a part of the West staff ago, and of course, a part of the East staff last year. Now a head coach. You have seen really players at all levels of 11-man football. You played small level, and now a state title last year in 6A. And Coach, there really are players at all levels.
Yeah, I think I go back to my time on the West staff. One of our receivers, he was I think a 1A player, maybe even an 8-man kid, but he was probably our most productive receiver yards go and the amount of catches he had. One of my quarterback, Zach Esau, was a 3A kid and played really well in that game. And you see it all over. Kids that know how to play football know how to play football. And I think it's really cool when you get in one of these games, with some of those kids from smaller schools. They get to show their athleticism and the talent that they have. And you cannot make assumptions when you come into these games about whether a player comes from a big school or a small school. some of the best players in these games over the course of the years have come from smaller schools. So it's really neat, and to be able to see them represent their hometowns and do it with pride, I think is really something special to do on a level like that.
What do you think the difference is, or what do you think one of the keys are as far as you and your coaching staff with your squad in that short, compressed amount of time to be able to put together the squad or create a team out of a bunch of individuals and high-level individuals? How important is that, and what are some of the things you guys might have in mind to be able to create that cohesiveness?
Yeah, I think when you get in that space, that's one of the things that's special about the Shrine Bowl is you get to spend that entire time together. There's some other all-star games where you don't necessarily get to have those close personal connections, and I think that's something the Shrine Bowl definitely allows for. But once you get there, it's kind of a nice little welcome for about 2 hours, and then once the cleats hit the field, I mean, it's all out for 8 days, and your 2 or 3 practices a day, depending on how you try to use your time as wisely as you can. Obviously, you're trying to get to the game to get the best players on the field, and hopefully, stay healthy during that time. But at the same time, make sure they're prepared for contact. They understand all the schemes the coaches are trying to implement during that time, and you're trying to understand what their strengths are and what fits your players best. So it's a really difficult task, but I think that's what makes it so special in the time that you do get with those guys. When you leave, you have some connections that you're going to remember for a long, long time.
Yeah, speaking of connections, I mean, players that may go on to the NFL, players that may go on and be an assistant on your coaching staff someday. It's all about connections. We've known each other for 15 plus years from way back in Southeast Kansas. But, talk about that bond that not only that you develop with the coaching, throwing ideas and bouncing ideas off of different coaches, but also learning from the players and the great experience that you all get to take in over a week in the summer.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because when you start talking about, we call something a certain way, and this is how we do things in our program. I've heard the players coach each other up, and I'll take little, sound bites from them. Maybe it's a way their coach phrases something to them that then I can take back to my players and use it to communicate something in a different way. I think obviously you get different ideas from being in a staff room over the course of the week. Different ways to call things, little wrinkles that you can, maybe tweak and bring back to what you do with your team. So there is an added selfish benefit to that, and obviously on the connection side, I mean, the West staff and I, we still tweet about Seinfeld quotes, and it's coming up on Festivus. So, that's going to be a big thing for us. And, obviously last year with our staff, I think I took the brunt of most of the criticism, or the jokes throughout the week, but that's what makes it fun, and that's how you develop those connections. And with the players, guys like Caden Davis, seeing that guy go on and do what he did at Northwest Missouri State, and then with the Broncos, those things are really special, and you get to feel like you have some small piece of that player's journey.
Well, Coach, you mentioned your staff, talked about those players. You've got a good one. Well, I think the thing you told me whenever I kind of gave you your final list of assistant coaches, the energy won't be an issue, and certainly that's going to be a key. You got guys like coaching legend Bill Arnold, and you've got Pitt State legend Josh Latimer on staff, and everywhere in between. So it should be a fun year for you, and I appreciate your time and how much work you guys have already put into this process, and looking forward to a nice East squad, and good luck.
Hey, thanks, BJ. Really excited about our staff and everything going for the East side. So go East. Thank you.
All right, the head coach of the 2023, the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl East squad, head coach at Blue Valley Northwest as well, Clint Ryder, joining us here on the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. When we take a break and we'll come back, we're going to turn our attention to the West side. They'll be the home team for the game, and you'll find out who they are when we come back after this.
Watch me. Watch my first step turn to leaps and bounds. Watch me play carefree while the world goes round. Listen to me join in with every girl and boy. Screams of happiness, limitless joy. Watch me run through the grass and sand. They said I would, now I can. Watch me. Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back to the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show as we have announced our 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl East squad, and now we're getting ready to go to the West squad. The game will be played out west, and always a lot of support in that half of the state as we head to Lewis Field Stadium at Hayes on July 15th here in 2023. For you fans watching, if you hear your player announced, please go to kansasshrinebowl.com/donate or use those QR codes on your screen right now to make a donation and make a comment and tell your player congratulations and help us get our fundraising efforts started in earnest here on the first day of the new year. Well, Chet, let's turn our attention to that West squad and get going with our 40 players that will make up the 50th squad for the West. And we'll start out west with Andell, and man, what a juggernaut Coach Schmidt's got going there, and a good one here in Riley Marks.
Yeah, one of the state's top athletes, really in any sport that he plays, whether we're talking about wrestling as a state runner-up, the #1 javelin thrower in the U.S., an explosive athlete, one of the most explosive athletes I've ever covered in the 11 years of sports in Kansas, a 385 clean. Linebacker in this game, could be a fullback as well. And, of course, in a game against Rock Creek this year, they moved him to nose guard, and all they did is pick off the football 7 times. This guy can play anywhere. Just an incredible athletic family, the Marks and Fairchild family. Fairchild and Andell probably sounds pretty familiar. Riley Marks, incredible athlete, a top 11 selection, the 3A Defensive Player of the Year. A very big pickup here for a guy that never lost a high school football game.
That would be pretty nice. Not the same for you and I, my friend. We'll stay in 3A and go to Scott Community, and their representative this year will be Jace Thomas.
Yeah, very good athlete out of Scott City. Nice size, 195 pounds, linebacker / running back. Of course, plays in the GWAC out there. Very tough, hard-nosed kids in that conference, and a nice selection out of Scott City.
Inman's been really well representative here of late, and they'll have another one playing in this game. 6'3", 190, 1A representative Eli Brunk.
Yeah, one of the top 2A players this year, state runner-up in football the last couple of years. Of course, the Broncs, both of them had a very good year for Inman. A lot of good players on this Inman team, and Coach Sawyer really has this program surging out there in Class 1A in the Wichita area. Great size at the linebacker position. Absolutely one of the best linebackers in the state of the smaller classifications of Kansas.
We'll head just south of there and up to the 5A classifications in Newton. They'll have a player this year, 5'11", 265. They got him slated as a D lineman perhaps in this one, and that's Ricky Parga.
Yeah, second team all-league pick out of the ABCTL, but you also got to remember Derby and Mays are also in that league. So this guy is facing top-notch competition week in and week out, and a nice pickup there. Line spots were a need really spot on the west side this year with a lot of juniors and sophomores, being some of the top players in the state, but this guy definitely a deserving pick on the defensive line out of Newton High School.
We'll stay in that same region. This time we'll be in Hutchinson, 5A, 5'9", 171, and Noah Kokar.
A lot of speed, very athletic, can play multiple spots offensively. Not a big guy, but an electric player, and really a part of the nice turnaround they got going at Hutchinson right now, as they were definitely a team this year that I liked a lot out of the 5A West. This player right here, a big reason for that.
Well, we're not going to leave that area. In fact, we'll head just a little bit east of there and go to the Heston region, and they'll have a player, a 3A representative, and a big lanky guy, and 6'4", 190, and that's Jake Proctor.
Yeah, more known as a high school basketball player, a 2-time All-State selection for, multiple-time state champion out there. The Swathers really have had it going on in basketball, but, the Ferralis kid at quarterback and Proctor, a great connection. Proctor, injured, missed a few games this year as well, but when he was there, man, he produced big time. Great size, great leaping ability, very athletic. Definitely one of the top receivers in any class of the state when you're comparing him against a lot of other guys. Just an athlete and can go up and get that ball.
We talked a little bit on the east side of things about consistency and some teams that are just always right there at the end. None probably more consistent over the last 6 years or so, just falling a little bit short each time. In McPherson and the Bullpups, Coach Pav going to join us on our West squad as an assistant coach. He'll be bringing on with players 6'3", 215, good-looking tight end in Sam Becker.
Yeah, they've had some really good programs over there. And, of course, you look at Sam Becker, a guy that was a Defensive Player of the Year in his conference this year on the defensive line, but doubles as a tight end, great size, 6'3", 215. A lot of really talented players for Coach Pav this year. And, of course, a sub-state runner-up losing to Wamego this year. But this is definitely one of the best defensive players and doubles as a tight end out of the class.
Move up to 6A and go way out west to Garden City. They'll have another one in this game, 6'2", 185, and Jerry Ortega.
Yeah, a guy that grades out very well with his speed at camps and combines, and a guy that you want to get the football to. As I said, great size, 6'2", 185 pounds. Didn't light up the stat column necessarily, but a player definitely deserving as one of the most athletic players in Class 6A.
We'll talk to Coach in just a little bit, Coach Crow from Hayes, and he's had some good success lately. This guy's a good reason for it. Gets to play in front of his hometown crowd as well, and that's Bryce Salmons.
Yeah, this is a great kid as well. I've gotten to meet at some camps and combines over the last few years, and he looks the part as well. It seems like he's been in high school forever. And Hayes, man, what a fine season that they had in a sub-state runner-up finish. All anybody heard that was a senior on this team was how good those guys were before him. They certainly were very good, but nobody was talking about these juniors and seniors at Hayes this year, and they proved a lot of people wrong, and Bryce Salmon's a big reason for that. He can play defensive line, D-end, linebacker, fullback, tight end. This guy does everything for Hayes High, and of course, a very good representative of his school, very good representative of his community, and nice to see him get a pickup here as an all-state selection in 5A.
Smith Center has put quite a few guys on the Kansas Shrine Bowl, including more than a few legends as well in this game. We'll stick in the 1A, ranked 6'1", 260, and Coy Hairsnake.
Yeah, a guy that plays center as well. And, of course, anytime you get a lineman out of Smith Center, you kind of know what you're getting. Maybe that's stereotyping the program, but that's stereotyping in a good way because, man, they've had some powerful players and certainly, running the football over the years, and has the size as well, 6'1", 260 pounds, so not a small guy, and definitely a guy that can play line at any level of high school in Kansas. Not in this game just because he was a standout in Class 1A, a very good player over the last several seasons.
It's not unique necessarily to this game, as we've often had this happen, but it does seem like we've got more than our fair share of coaches' kids playing in this game, and this is one of them. In the 2A, ranked 6', 185. He was the quarterback for a good Southeast of Saline team. We're talking about Luke Gebhardt.
Yeah, over the last 2 years, last year losing to Andale and probably the second best team in 3A. This year they jumped down to 2A and losing a couple overtimes to Kingman that made a state title for the first time. And this was a big reason why. A very good player, over 1,700 yards of passing, and really a true dual threat for this team. A little bit of speed to go along with them, but a tough player, a smart player, a coach's son. Southeast of Saline has had a lot of really good athletes and a lot of multiple sports programs. Very good right now at Southeast of Saline, and great representative of their high school to get into this game.
Head back down to the Wichita Metro in 6A ranks, and Derby always a juggernaut, and they'll bring on another good one in Miles Wash.
Yeah, you know what you're getting with a great defender out of Derby, and you have that with this player, a top 33 selection in all classifications of Kansas, a finalist for that Defensive Player of the Year, and really battled with Ty Weber for that spot for us, as we thought this guy absolutely over the last 2 years is one of the best players. Multiple offers at the next level, Division I, and a really good player out of Derby High School. Not obviously the state champion, Derby squads that we've seen here recently, but Derby is still a powerhouse and a program, that's still going to be at the highest levels in Class 6A. And this is a great representative of their program and absolutely one of the best defensive players in the state of Kansas.
And again, just reiterating your adage that there's talent at every level. We'll go all the way from 6A and the perennial powerhouse of Derby down to 8-man and 8-man 2, in fact, in the perennial powerhouse of Canton Galva. 6'3", 185, and Jet Vincent. Talk about him.
Well, how often do you have an 8-man school that has back-to-back years of a Division I football player at the same position, basically? Because Jet Vincent, obviously a wide receiver offensively, defensive back, and going to Colorado State at the next level. He played at Wheatland Grinnell as a freshman, sophomore, and junior, and then his dad got the job as a principal at Canton Galva. He moves in. So you lose Tyson Struber and you gain Jet Vincent, two of the best of all time at the 8-man ranks. And they fell short, of making it to state title this year, losing to Axtell in a back-and-forth game, a battle there of two of the best programs in 8-man, maybe ever at that level. This is a young man that passes the eye test for sure. There's a reason he's playing Division I football, the all-time leader in interceptions in high school football at the 8-man level. So very good to see him get on this list. Jet Vincent, absolutely one of the best 8-man players of all time. But throw him at a 6A program, throw him at a 5A program, he's still going to be first-team All-State.
Let's go to Council Groves, go to 2A, 6 foot, 175, and Ethan Burton.
Yeah, has multiple Division II offers, and this is a guy that runs a 10.8500 fully automatic time. So this is a guy that his speed is going to translate no matter what level that he's at. We saw Council Grove kind of come out of nowhere this year and make a little bit of a run and make some noise. So this is a big reason why you can kind of plug him in anywhere offensively, and a very good defensive back with his speed and also nice length at 6 foot.
Let's go back to Andell and their long win streak, and one of their reasons why. Another big offensive lineman, 6 foot 240 rather, and that's Jack Cross.
Great kid as well. Really got to talk to him a lot at our Top 11 event this year from Sports in Kansas, and really just a mainstay on that offensive line, defensive line. Not going to pass the eye test as a guy that you think, oh, this is a Division I offensive lineman. He doesn't have to be. This guy was so powerful. I believe 365 clean, a 60-foot shot put throw, never lost a high school football game. And this is a guy that goes to work at 3:30 a.m. at a butcher shop in Goddard before he goes in to lift weights before he goes to school every day. So you talk about work ethic. This is a guy that definitely has it on and off the field, just gets the job done for Andell. As I said, never lost a high school football game. So it's really cool to see him. And of course, Riley Marks go in. There were 5, 6, 7, 8 guys from Andell that could have been on this list. So that's how difficult it is to pick some of this stuff, because Andell and a lot of the blowouts they had, some of these guys only played 2 quarters. They don't have a lot of stats, and absolutely one of the best programs in Kansas. I know they were in 3A, but I don't care what level they're at. They are that good. So really cool to see Jack get on this list, as he absolutely dominated people over the last couple of seasons in high school football.
We'll head to one of their big rivalries, and the West head coach from a year ago was Troy Black at Wichita Collegiate. He'll have a player in this one, 6'3", 190, and Wesley Fair.
Yeah, very athletic player with some length, played high school quarterback, but obviously going to Kansas State as a safety at the next level, as you can see with his length that he has. So a lot of things you can do with Wesley Fair, and of course the back-to-back All-State selection in Class 3A for Coach Black.
Drop down to Class 2A and go to Chaparral, and then you want to just throw it up to this guy, 6'6", 175, and Jackson Schwartz.
Yeah, and was at his school talking to him not too long ago. Of course, his sister, a jumper at Wichita State, a high jumper, a state champion, and this guy has that ability as well. I don't know if you've seen any of the Twitter dunks of him recently, but this guy jumps out of the gym, back-to-back over 700-yard seasons at receiver. He is every bit of 6'5 and a half, 6'6". Big kid, not just a big kid. He's very, very athletic, can go up and get it. Don't know what he's going to do at the next level. He'll probably have multiple looks in multiple sports. But if you want a jump ball, this is the guy to go to, because he is one of the best dunkers in Kansas, but also doubles as one of the best receivers in the state of Kansas. He's done some nice things for his program, the Roadrunners there on Chaparral.
Back to the Wichita suburbs and 5A ranks, another big O lineman for Coach Crow's West squad, 6'5", 290, and Bradley Bond.
Yeah, and a really nice season for Coach Beeson there, and always some solid linemen on both sides of the football, and Goddard's had some great representatives in this game, and this guy has, of course, the size as well. Said linemen were really a premium to get on this list this year. Nice, translates, jumps off the page, a 5A All-State pick at 6'5", 290 pounds.
We'll head to the 6A state champions in Manhattan. Manhattan with more players in the Kansas Shrine Bowl than any other team in history. They lead that mark and a long list of really highly regarded players, and they'll have another one, 6'2", 215. It'll be Jackson Vikander.
And really a total team effort this year. I mean, a lot of leaders on this team, but you could have had 5, 6, 7 All-State pick. The first time since 1988 with a state title. Really, really cool to see. And it's the first time since 2008 for a Centennial League title in Class 6A since Junction City and Randall Zimmerman won one in 2008. So Centennial League, you know, a lot of people haven't really taken them for real because they've been beat out in a lot of playoff games. But I'm telling you, they were for real this year, and they were awesome. They've had a lot of really good football teams in Manhattan. They put it all together this year, got over that hump and got a state title. And really, really cool to see a player's game from Manhattan, as you mentioned, one of the most historic programs in the state, but it had been a little bit of a drought for a state title. Drought no more. State champions in Class 6A.
Coach Beeler will be our coach for 1A on the west side out of Conway Springs. He'll have a player joining him as well, and that'll be Zane Zogelman.
Yeah, this is a town that has so much football tradition. It's kind of weird seeing them at 1A because they were 3A for so long, the long win streaks, and I believe they had like 13 Division I players at a 3A or 2A high school over like a 20-year span, which almost sounds made up. And I think that might even continue with a guy that's a junior this year into next year if he picks up some offers. But Zane Zogelman, a really good player at offensive line and linebacker over the last few years, and a back-to-back All-State pick in Class 1A. So a really good program that they got there under Coach Beeler, and a nice representative of their high school, and Zane Zogelman.
All right, well, we're halfway through our West squad. We're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll get to the next 20 players and round out our 2023 West squad. Before we do, don't forget, make a donation. If you're one of the fans of those 20 players you just heard from, go to Venmo or PayPal, scan those QR codes on your screen to make a donation and make a comment about how proud you are of your player and help us kick off our fundraisers as we look to make our 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl the biggest one ever. We'll step away, take another quick break. We come back, we've got your final 20 players for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl. We'll return right after this on The Selection Show.
Our first picnic, our first dance, our big trip, our first home, and all the belly laughs in between. These are the moments I'll always remember. I don't drink and drive. I have more memories to make.
Remember what matters most. Don't drink and drive. Do it for them. A message from the Kansas Department of Transportation and your law enforcement community.
Watch me. Watch me shine with every snap. Born to move fans, to cheer and clap. 2 different legs, that's how I play. One built from science to help me on the day. Between these lines, I'm all heart and muscle. Don't stare too long, you'll miss the hustle. Watch me. Pioneers in prosthetic technology at Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back to the 50th Annual Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show as we line out the final 20 players for our 2023 West squad. We've already met 20 of those players, half the squad in the books. We'll find out who those next 20 are in just a moment. Before we do, if you've heard one of your All-Stars and want to give them a shout out here in our final segment of the show, be sure to do that by scanning your QR code there on your screen for Venmo or PayPal, or go to kansasshrinebowl.com/donate and help us make a big impact for Shriners Children's in our 50th year. Chet, let's get to it and find out who our next 20 players will be for and our final players here for the 2023 Kansas Shrine Bowl. And man, we go to Mays. Coach Guzman has had a juggernaut going and some of the best players in the state of Kansas, and here's one of them, 6'4", 283 in Mason Thrush.
Yeah, this is a guy that's protected Avery Johnson over the last several years. One of the best players that we've ever seen in Kansas history, and Avery Johnson that's going to Kansas State at semester. And this young man, a back-to-back All-State pick, a non-senior pick last year, first-team All-State pick in 5A this year, and 2 state runner-up finishes in a row, losing to that juggernaut of Mill Valley. So a lot of ways that you could have went with Mays that Avery's not on the board, but this is definitely one of the best linemen in all classifications of Kansas.
El Dorado's put a couple of guys on our roster here of late, and they'll have another one in the 4A ranks, 6'1", 205. They've got him listed as a linebacker in this one. It'll be Jalen Rice.
Yeah, I believe around 130 tackles this year as a senior, a 4A All-State pick at linebacker, and doubles as a running back as well. But definitely one of the best football players in Class 4A. Nice to see him get a spot out of Edelray High School.
Wichita Northwest certainly no stranger to the Kansas Shrine Bowl. They'll get a good one in there at the running back spot, and L.J. Phillips.
It's incredible some of the players that Coach Martin has had, specifically on the offensive side of the football. And this year, a couple of all-star running backs and an all-star quarterback. And, of course, some of those guys still in high school for another year. But L.J. Phillips, of course, the senior leader offensively out of the backfield, 5'9", 205, one of the best running backs in all of Kansas. They were 5A for several years, but of course have bumped up to Class 6A, so a 6A All-State selection for the Grizzlies here.
You want to know what next level size looks like? It's 6'6", 230. That's how big Will Ancio is out of Cape of Mount Carmel, their representative this year.
Yeah, a very good player. Capen didn't get in the win column like they wanted to this year as much, but still a very, very good football team and played really, really a tough schedule. And this guy, jumps off the page with his size, his athletic ability. Of course, his sister, also very athletic, a basketball player for Wichita State, so an athletic family. This young man is going to Kansas State at the next level, and you see that 230 right there. That's probably not going to be on there long because Kansas State probably going to put some weight on him, but very athletic as well. A big target and a big steal, I feel like, for Kansas State. Definitely one of the best tight ends in the state of Kansas over the last several seasons. Will Ancio out of Cape and Mount Carmel.
We'll head a little bit north, a little bit east of there to Circle High School. Their representative this year in the 4A rank, 6'1", 175, is Ty Smith.
He was a finalist for Sports in Kansas Defensive Player of the Year on both sides of the football. Coach Clover has done a great job in the resurgence of this program. Ty Smith, a big reason for that. I think he's probably a better player offensively than he is defensively, but it's close. So you can do anything that you want really with this guy. Nearly, I believe, around 1,000 yards this year and 5 picks defensively. And of course, Cannon McCormick, he helped lead that defense for him. Cannon, a junior, will be one of the top players in the state next year, but Ty Smith, definitely one of the top players in the Wichita area, definitely one of the top players in all of 4A when it comes to both sides of the football for Circle.
We'll stay on the outer ring of the Wichita Metro, go to Valley Center. The 5A representative, 5'11", 195, is Cameron Boyer.
Yeah, really had a pretty nice season overall. I believe over 100 tackles this year, a 5A All-State pick. Size doesn't necessarily jump off the page, but he's always around the football. And there were really a lot of good linebackers in Class 5A this year, and of course an All-State pick in that classification. And they got some coming back next year as well for Valley Center with one of the top running backs in the state. So nice to see him have a good year this year. As I mentioned, a nice pickup out of 5A for Valley Center.
We'll jump up to 6A, but stay in the Metro. Go to the south side of the city now at Hayesville campus. They'll have Kyle Butcher.
Yeah, and a program that likes to run the football a lot and some nice size up there. Not a ton of height, but of course 250 pounds. And of course, out of the ABCTL, some very good linemen on both sides of the ball, and he definitely fits that mold.
Well, nobody's coaching the Kansas Shrine Bowl more than Randy Zimmerman, and he's put a lot of players in this game as well over the years. And Junction City will have a 6'2", 275-pound O-lineman in Garrett McCree.
And really a consistent program up there, and so many good players out of Junction City have been in this game. And you get a lineman out of there, you kind of know what you're getting. Of course, Emporia State this year, tied in for them in high school at Junction City was an All-American this year at offensive line. So some tough, hard-nosed kids out of Junction City, and this will definitely be one of those pickups out of Class 6A in the Centennial League, which I thought was a very, very good football league this year, of course, that produced the state champion Manhattan.
Well, speak of the devil, Manhattan will have their second player in this game. And again, talking about coaches' kids, Coach Schartz will be assistant, the 6A representative on the west side. He'll be bringing on Keenan Schartz as well. Keenan got there certainly of his own volition, 5'10", 165, and led Manhattan to a state title.
What a thriller to win the state championship this year as well over Gardner Edgerton, and first state title since 1988. It's nice to see them doubling up and get 2 picks here. As I said, they hadn't been to a title game since 2001, hadn't won one since 1988, so making some history there. And, what better fashion to make some history with your dad as a head coach. And all the clips that you see, I know Bethany Bowman of Sports in Kansas had put some out of him and his dad hugging. That's my dad. I mean, that almost gives you the chills when you watch it, and how special of a moment that was for those two. But not only that, the great year that he had overall, I believe 2,500 plus yards of offense at the quarterback position. So very good pickup here out of the Centennial League in Class 6A All-Stater. Top 11 pick, Keenan Schartz of Manhattan.
And they'll get to spend one more game on the gridiron together in the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl as well. Another top team in the state of Kansas, this time in 2A, Kingman, and they're going to bring on Nolan Friend.
This is a program under Coach Hageman that's kind of came out of nowhere the last couple of years, and a big reason is this young man right here does a little bit of everything for this program. Not huge, but just gets the job done offensively. Plays a lot of specialty spots as well. State runner-up this year in Class 2A. Definitely one of the best football players in 2A, a Sports in Kansas All-State pick on offense, Player of the Year finalist over the last 2 years, and really nice to see Kingman in rare territory over the last couple of years. As I said, this young man right here really helped put this program on the map.
Coach Hageman will be our 2A representative as a West assistant. The 5A West assistant out of Salina Central's Coach Sambo, and he'll have a player in this game, and Keon McMillan.
Yeah, very good player. Not big by any stretch at 5'7", 155, but the player of the year in his conference this year, and really a nice season for Salina Central. It's been quite some time since Central or South, I think, has been in the state title game. That's had a little bit to do with maybe some of the other programs, obviously, but 9 years. But, man, they really had a nice season this year, and a big reason why this young man out of the backfield here, a first-team 5A All-State selection.
Kenyon McMillan, I get you right there. We'll go back to Mays. They'll have a second player in this game, 6'2", 46, and that is Caden Miranda.
One of the best defensive linemen in the state, doesn't have huge size, but enough size. And he was dominating at times this year, coming up with some clutch plays and some big ball games. Back-to-back All-State selection in Class 5A, back-to-back 5A Defensive Player of the Year finalists, and really contended, coming close to almost winning that this year by voting by media members as well. So a very good pickup here. Avery Johnson led that offense. This is the young man right here that led the defense.
We'll stay on the defensive side of the ball, stay on the D-line as well. 6'3", 220 out of Bishop Carroll, Walter Gray.
This guy, athletic ability, vertical speed, about 4.55 handheld speed, really flying under the radar because he has size at 6'3", 6'3.5", 220 pounds. Probably needs a little bit of a weight gain to him, but definitely a player that I could see really making some noise at the next level. 5A All-State pick, 5A Defensive Player of the Year finalist, and a great young man as well. Just speaking to his high school not too long ago, and came up and talked to me, and followed him at camps and combine. So not only that, represents his school and his program in a great manner.
Another one of the players is going to get to play in front of a hometown crowd from Thomas More Prep Marion, a 2A representative, 5'11", 175, and Cade Harris.
Yeah, and talking to Connor Nickel, he feels like this guy. Connor, of course, covers stuff for us at Sports in Kansas, lives in Hayes, and felt like this is probably one of the best players they've had at this program in the last 20 years. And very athletic, played nearly every spot. Played a lot of linebacker this year, but more of a defensive back. Very athletic, played quarterback, running back. Very good kid as well. So athletic with some speed. Nice pickup out of Hayes. And of course, getting to play right there in his backyard at TMP, really cool to see.
Go to 3A and out to Pratt for the Greenbacks. It'll be John Martinez.
This guy is one of the best return men in the state of Kansas, and Pratt had a very solid season. We'd be talking probably a lot more about Pratt if a school called Andale didn't exist this year, but Andale, everybody kind of has been playing for second in that Class 3A. But out of the Central Kansas League, this guy, first-team All-League returner, first-team All-League defensive back, just an electric playmaker in multiple phases of the game, whether that's defensively or in special teams.
Little River continues to be a perennial presence in the Kansas Shrine Bowl as one of our 8-man representative. They'll make up the second of what will be 3 8-man picks in this year's game, and it's going to be Braxton Lafferty.
Yeah, the co-defensive player of the year, along with his teammate who had 20 sacks, and the Stevens kid, and Lafferty, a linebacker, could play at any level of high school football in Kansas, has the size, has the ability. Really like his tape a lot. Did a football evaluation on him as a prospect earlier this year. Really liked what I saw on him, and doubles as a really good, offensive player out of the backfield as well. Very good basketball player. Little River, man, they've had some really good talent for that small a school, really showing that there are players at all levels. So nice to see Braxton Lafferty get in out of the 8-man Division I state runner-up.
Just 4 spots remaining in our 2023 West squad. It will stay in 8-man, our third 8-man representative out of South Sumner, Keandre Smith.
Yeah, and you're probably looking at the screen going, is that logo and school made up? Well, it was made up this past year because it's the first ever year of it, and it's not a school. It is Caldwell and South Haven as a football co-op, now called the South Sumner Outlaws. Keandre Smith, of course, led that Caldwell program for multiple years. He is a standout, thousands of yards, whether passing, whether rushing, a very good player, and it's nice to see him get a pickup in here as they're definitely players at all levels, and this is a guy that we really see his athletic ability translating at a lot of spots in this game. So not a made-up logo, not a made-up school, brand new. First ever year of South Sumner having football as the co-op, and first ever year, guess what? They get a Shrine Bowl selection.
I will admit, I even looked that up whenever I saw that come across as a pick. I had to clarify some things. We'll go all the way up to 6A at a big school in Wichita Heights, and they'll bring on John Randall.
Man, you talk about an electric playmaker. It's maybe not had the stats that many want, but I don't care. This is a guy, pound for pound, one of the best recruits in the state. The name Randall sounds familiar. His father played at KU and Southern Illinois, an all-state player himself. His uncle played for the Dallas Cowboys in Oklahoma State. One of the best athletic families in Kansas, has multiple offers at the FBS Power 5 level. One of the best return men in the state of Kansas as well. I like this guy a lot out of Wichita Heights. John Randall, back-to-back 6A All-State selection.
We'll go to 4A and Andover Central, 5'11", 170, and Mason White.
Yeah, they had a lot of, pretty good players on the defensive side of the football, multiple ways to go, but a player out of the ABCTL leagues and a very consistent program there and what they do under Coach Tuttle. So nice to see him get a pick here, a defensive back, and a lot of good players, I said, over the years that have played in this game out of Andover Central.
All right, we're down to our final pick here for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl. These initial rosters will be released right now here on the first day of 2023. Our final pick for the 2A ranks on the west side of the state, 6'2", 270 from Beloit and Grady Seifert.
Yeah, a great young man as well. The back-to-back Sports in Kansas 2A Defensive Player of the Year. 50 tackles for loss over the last couple of years. Of course, his dad, the principal there, also an assistant football coach. Great family, great kid, and absolutely one of the most underrated players, in my opinion, in the state of Kansas. If you're not going through extra eligibility or COVID and you add an inch on him, man, look out. This guy can play at the next level. Listed as defensive line in this game, but he's a 4-year starter, I believe, on both sides of the football. Played in that state championship game as a junior last year, but Grady Seifert out of Beloit High School. Definitely know what you're getting here. You're getting one of the best linemen in the state of Kansas.
All right, well, there you have it. Those are the 40 players for the 2023 West squad. We've also saw the 40 from the East squad. We'll hear from the head coach of the West squad, Tony Crow, when we return right after this on the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show.
Watch me. Here I stand on my own 2 feet. Jump shot intact, here to compete. Skilled hands were there to mend the bone. From loving halls that brought me home. My world stopped with a drive through the lane. Now give me the ball. You'll remember my name. Watch me. Orthopedic excellence at Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back to the Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl coming up on July 15th, 2023. We just introduced you to the 40 West squad players that will make up that 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl. Now let's meet the coaches that are going to lead the West squad, the assistant coaches, and of course the head coach, Tony Crow, we'll hear from in just a moment. 6A representative coming off a 6A state championship in Joe Schartz. 5A will be Mark Sambo from Salina Central, Jace Pavlovich from 4A McPherson, Mark Henry from Clay Center. In 3A, our 2A representative from Kingman will be Tanner Hagman, and our 1A representative from Conway Springs, Matt Beeler. Now let's talk to the head man for the West squad, Tony Crow, out there, Hayes High head coach and now the West squad head coach. Tony, you got your players. We just heard all 40 of those names representative. You got to be pretty thrilled about this upcoming West squad.
Yeah, we're excited. Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. And we got in and rounded this roster out last week, and man, we just saw that there was a lot of good players out there, and we felt like we were able to get some of the best in the state, and definitely guys that will represent the West Side really well.
Well, Coach, whenever I was in your office last month previewing the playoffs with you, we talked about momentum and Hayes and football being on the map. You've definitely done that out there. Obviously, an assistant coach in this game last year. You've played in the Kansas Shrine Bowl. You played at Fort Hays State. You're the head coach at Hayes. And now the 50th annual game you get to bring to Hayes. How excited is Hayes, Kansas, and how excited are you?
Man, really excited, Chet. I think it just gives us a chance to showcase all the great things out in Hayes, Kansas, and out in Western Kansas. It's just sometimes that this part of the state doesn't quite get highlighted, like we feel it deserves. And growing up out here and coaching out here and playing out here and having all my family out here, we just feel like it's a great opportunity for us to show what we're all about. And football is alive and well in Hayes. There was some time there or maybe it wasn't, and we think we've got it going, and it's going out of the college, and we feel like we've got it going, at the high schools, both high schools here now, and it's just it's a great time to be a football player in Hayes, Kansas.
Talking about your staff coach and a lot of good stuff. The way the players, or the way the head coach is picked is voted from the previous coaching staff, and it was obvious that staff had built some cohesiveness and was pretty tight because the voting was pretty close, and you were able to come out as a head coach. And then the same thing with the assistant coaches throughout the state of Kansas. It's based on how they finished throughout the year and their availability to coach in it. And it was interesting as we were going through the coaching process of all those other serendipitous things that Chet just mentioned. You've got some pretty close ties to this coaching staff, and I got to believe that's going to lend itself to be able to build that cohesion and build the squad with some of the history that you've got with those guys on your staff.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun staff, and just first of all, BJ, just very grateful and feel blessed and fortunate that the guys from last year, some of those guys, voted for me, and I really didn't see that coming, and it was, when you and I talked, it was, I had some thoughts about how that all happened, but man, it's just blessed to get this opportunity, and now just, man, these guys on the staff, it's going to be fun. I mean, we got a lot of Tigers. It's kind of or guys, there's 4 or 5 of us that played at Fort Hays. 3 of us together. Well, 4 of us. Coach Sambo was there. With Coach Pat and I that are last year, and then Coach Schartz played in the Shrine Bowl here in I believe '93, and is now coming back and playing and having family ties here again. And so there's a lot of things that circle back around to Hays, and it's going to be a great staff full of guys that have a lot of pride for this school and this community and Western Kansas. So it's going to be, I think you're going to see that kind of beaming from us all week.
Well, you obviously played in this game back in the day, and obviously an assistant coach and a head coach. Was it as a player to the coaching experience? I know playing in it several years ago, but you've really gotten to see all of it. And as we continue to say every year on this show, it is so much more than a game. Speak on that experience as a player, then now assistant coach, and now coming into a head coach.
Yeah, as a player, and that was 23 years ago, 24, going on 24 years ago, and you don't understand as a player, you don't really understand the magnitude of the game as much as when you're a coach, but we felt it still as players. I remember walking away as a player thinking, man, that was a lot of fun and what a life-changing experience. And I remember just after meeting the Shrine kids and going to the Shrine Hospital and doing all those things, I remember walking away thinking, how blessed am I? How fortunate am I to have such a great life and to be able to help others and made a lot of friends in the process that I still close to and communicate with today. A lot of the coaches, the guys that coached me back when, still talk to those guys. And then as a coach, as assistant coach last year, just really understanding, I think it really just sunk in a lot more, as an adult and a little bit more mature that, the gravity of the game and what it means, and it allowed us as coaches to teach the players, what it means to really be a part of this game and raise money for this, for this great organization and this and all these kids. So, and it's as a head coach, I think I'm even seeing more because you realize real quick how much more there is behind the scenes, and it's just such a great experience, and we hope to really show that to these kids that we're going to be able to coach.
All right, Coach. Well, it should be a lot of fun, and we're excited to head out there to Hayes this summer and put on a good show for you guys. It should be a very good competition as well. And now that we know who your players are, it's time to get to work. Appreciate your time, and good luck this summer.
Yeah, we're fired up. Thanks, guys, and go West Side.
That's right. Go West for them. That's the head coach of the West squad, Tony Crow, joining us here on the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. We'll be back to wrap things up when we return right after this.
We've all heard what they say about us. Flyover state, middle of nowhere, a bunch of country folk. Go ahead and fly on over. There's nothing going on. Nowhere to be. And yeah, we've got a lot of hard-working, entrepreneurial, best neighbor you could ask for farm families. We're proud of Kansas, and that's why we built our entire network for it. Next Tech Wireless, keeping Kansans connected.
Every athlete dreams of winning, of all their hard work and determination coming to fruition, of being crowned a champion. At Cotton O'Neill Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, we live for those empowering moments. When injuries happen, we work with you to get you back in the game, quickly and safely. Don't just dream of winning. Make it happen with Cotton O'Neill Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Watch me. Watch my first step turn to leaps and bounds. Watch me play carefree while the world goes round. Listen to me join in with every girl and boy. Screams of happiness, limitless joy. Watch me run through the grass and sand. They said I would, now I can. Watch me. Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
Welcome back one final time to the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl Selection Show. BJ Harris and Chet Kuplen here as we have just announced the 80 players who will make up 40 for the East and 40 for the West in the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl presented by Mammoth Sports Construction, coming up on Saturday, July 15th, 2023 at Lewis Field Stadium in Hayes, Kansas. It should be a good one, and Chet will bring you in here and one final time here for this one to knocking out those players and talking about all 80 of those players. You continue to impress me on your knowledge and expertise when it comes to Kansas high school athletics and how passionate and how much you promote them. But those are some 80 really good players, and we're always excited for the Shrine Bowl coming up this summer.
Yeah, very excited, and thanks for having me on once again. It's great to be a part of this great organization and really what it stands for. And of course, if your name wasn't called today, be ready, because there are a lot of late additions or players that may be injured. And this isn't a list that BJ and I are, just listing out our favorites or picking. As he explained in the process, it's a lot of stuff. You first off have to be nominated, and then of course it goes out to media, and then they have to vote on it. Then it comes in, and we have to put together a team based on those votes and kind of calculate it. And then it goes to coaches and all that. So it's a long process. Just being nominated is a great honor. If you are this game, play in this game. It is a life-changing experience. I've been on this selection committee, I think, since 2012 now. So I've been a part of a lot of these Shrine Bowl games, and just seeing it, from the inside, both as a media member, somebody that covers it, and a fan in general, such a great experience and all that it represents. Plus some really good football players, some really good coaches across the state. And thanks to all the partners for making this possible. I know that a lot of your partners, BJ, are some of my partners at Sports in Kansas as well. Mammoth Sports Construction, Watco, and Next Tech Wireless, to mention a few of those. Just incredible. But it's much more than that. It's individuals, it's donations, it's your name coming across the screen, a Venmo, a PayPal, whatever it happens to be, donation. Please help with this great that takes place in July. And it's much more than a game. As I said, it's not just a game that goes on for a few hours in July. This is a year-round type of deal with a lot of different activities. So be sure to follow all the social media platforms for the Kansas Shrine Bowl. In addition to that, stuff that we promote from Sports in Kansas with it. But as always, BJ, great to be on this show. Great to talk about some of the state's top talent. As I said, if you're not picked today, doesn't mean that you're not going to be picked. We've seen some of the players that have ever played in this game picked right up to the last. The reason you're in this job today, you were a late ad. I'm not going to say. I will. I'll throw you under the bus. 23 years ago. That's how old you are.
I'm more than painfully aware of how long ago it was. I appreciate that shout out. And it is. It's an impactful event. It was an impactful event on my life, and it is something you make the most of. And we're going to be finding all kinds of opportunities for those guys to continue to make an impact. But you mentioned those sponsors, and there's a reason why that, organizations like Mammoth Sports Construction, Next Tech, and Watco, and Stormont Vale have jumped on board with our organization as well as yours. Is they understand the impact that high school athletics and particularly in this particular instance football can make on the lives of young men and on the communities in which they're in. And then when you add in the Kansas Shrine Bowl, you're taking that impactful opportunity and applying that to people who really need even more support. And that's what we do with the Shrine Bowl. It's taking the things that we love, and one of the main things that we love in the state of Kansas in high school football, and putting it out on the field for an opportunity to make a big impact on the lives of Shriners children. And that's what we're looking to do with our partnerships through Mammoth Sports Construction and our other corporate partners, as well as the help we're going to get from our families and our friends, as well as Kansans and Shriners and Nobles across the state of Kansas and the country for this 50th game. Chet, I appreciate your support always and the help you give us, and look forward to working with you over the next 8 months as we line up to go for that 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl coming up in Hayes.
I'm excited. It'll be here before we know it. Out to Mike Nelson and Michael Queta as well for putting us on this great broadcast each and every year, and all the hard work that you do and Bryce and your staff across the state of Kansas to make this game so successful each and every year.
Thank you. Well, on behalf of the Kansas Shrine Bowl Board of Directors, there are your 80 players for the 2023, the 50th installment of the Kansas Shrine Bowl coming up this summer, Saturday, July 15th in Hayes, Kansas. Go to kansasshrinebowl.com/donate. Continue to make donations throughout the year, and be on the lookout for our players, our all-stars, our cheerleaders, our band participants out on the streets helping us make an impact for Shriners children. For Chet Kuplen, I'm BJ Harris saying so long. We'll see you in Hayes in July for the 50th Kansas Shrine Bowl.